the great thing about our business and our role as commercial real estate brokers is that we can learn from the successes and the failures of our clients for free.
NAI Global presents How's Biz.
Greetings, this is the How's Biz podcast, sponsored and hosted by NAI Global. I'm your host, Gary Marsh. Today's guest is Marcus Daniels. He's a vice president with NAI Michael, based in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C. What's the name of your county, Marcus?
Prince George's County, Maryland.
Prince George's County. That's right. So first of all, welcome, Marcus. Thanks for joining the program.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So we always like to start to get people a feel for what kind of brokerage you do, because as you know, it's a diverse world in terms of property type, product type. Tell us a little bit about your brokerage practice. And I think if I read your bio right, you've been at it for 13 or 14 years now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary. I've been a commercial real estate broker with NAI Michael now for 8 years, and it's been one of the best experiences of my life. To date, I've sold over $100 million worth of commercial real estate, including office, retail, industrial, land, and specialty properties such as churches, schools, nonprofit facilities, and government facilities as well. So, and when I first started in the business, I specialized in office and working with specialty properties such as nonprofit facilities and churches. And I quickly evolved my practice into pretty much more of a generalist that works across all asset classes and property types and can help buyers, sellers, tenants, and landlords with their strategic real estate goals and objectives. And so as a part of that, that has certainly kept me fairly busy, but has provided me with a tremendous amount of opportunity to add value to my clients and the communities and parties that they serve.
Excellent. And I gather based on your region, your marketplace, being a generalist is helpful. I would guess, Marcus, you're a solid secondary market. And there's a lot of different product types. So the fact that you're involved in different asset classes with sales makes sense for your marketplace. And I noticed that you didn't really say leasing. So are you really almost 100% focused on investment sales?
I would say about 80% of my business is representing sellers of commercial property, and then about 20% is representing buyers, as well as representing landlords and tenants. When I first started in the business, I quickly realized that there's immense power in being able to bring properties to the market and to educate and inform owners of the value that their property has, opportunities to be able to help them think through all of the potential options they may have with their property. And ultimately, whether they want to lease the property, they want to sell it, they want to develop it themselves, or they just want to hold it, being able to provide that insight and information to them was particularly valuable. So I always reached out to owners with the mindset of adding value and providing them with information, not looking to quickly list a property or to get a deal done fast, but to build a genuine relationship. And in most of the clients that I work with, it's, from the first engagement or the first conversation, in most cases, those relationships have been built over a year, 2 years, 5 years, and then also one day the phone will ring and they say, ready to move forward. And so it's been great. I consider a good amount of my clients friends and family at this point.
Oh, right on, as it should be. Well, the cornerstone of our industry is it's a relationship business, and you seem to be epitomizing that with your practice. So good for you. Not that this is necessarily a market call, but we have written and reported extensively, as all media has, on the slowdown in transaction volume, particularly around sales, because of the interest rate environment. Has this really impacted your practice in the last 12 months?
I would say it's been even more busier, ironically enough. As more people watch the news, read the newspapers, and hear the chatter on the news and around their community about the market or what's going on, more owners have and owners, including business owners and property owners, have reached out to want to better understand what are we seeing as commercial real estate brokers and professionals in the industry, both from a national perspective, a regional perspective, and then from a local perspective as well. And because of that kind of thirst for information and understanding, it's created opportunities to be able to help owners to understand, where the market currently is, how their property is performing right now, and what we think the value of their property may be currently, and then moving forward over the next 6 to 12 months to help them to make an informed decision. And so, because of the desire for that type of information, our phones have been ringing off of the hook with owners that have been wanting just to better understand where we are and where we're headed and getting a professional opinion. And so, as a result of that, it has led to, at least from my business personally, more listings, more business development opportunities, as well as more people just referring business. Now, it's no secret that in this interest rate environment and high inflation environment, and with uncertainty in the global economy, that has had an impact on the financing of commercial real estate acquisitions, and consumer confidence and buyer confidence in the commercial real estate market has changed over the past 6 to 12 months. My sense is that if an asset is appropriately priced within the market, and if it makes sense in terms of being a good deal, those properties should move within a reasonable amount of time. But if those properties are not in line with the current market values, or kind of what we're seeing in terms of price per square foot values or price per acre values, those properties will sit. And I think, quite frankly, we have to be honest and upfront with our clients and letting them know that, hey, you may have a price in mind for your asset, but please understand that right now there's an increase in bid ask spread from the amount that you may be asking and what buyers are looking to offer. So again, it comes down to communicating effectively with the client and informing and educating them. And that doesn't oftentimes happen in one conversation. Happens in
Well,
most.
it's always a difficult situation. Most buyer or sellers always have an inflated sense of what their property is worth. But what you're saying earlier, Marcus, really resonates with me about how the turbulence in the market creates a curiosity and interest from owners that typically might be just sitting back, not really thinking about it. And so they're calling their advisors, the ones they trust. I got the same information. I was interviewing one of your colleagues in Denver, and one of my questions to her was, what was the immediate response following the pandemic? And she said she and her partner, the phone was ringing off the hook because people want to know, how this was impacting their investment. So the fact that you're at the front line of information and you have these relationships is really where you're creating that value for your client base. So for the listeners, note to self: turbulence is not a bad thing. If you've been in the game for a while, you probably know this, but it creates opportunity where otherwise some people might panic and get a little scared and go to a corner. Others are like, hey, what's going on? They want more information. So that's where you come in. So that's good stuff. Tell me a little bit about your background. We're always curious about how you got into the business. The path to a career in commercial real estate, especially brokerage, is usually not a direct one. And I believe you had some education in policy making and a personal interest in politics, and you kind of took a right at some point and went into commercial real estate. So how did that all evolve, Marcus?
That's a great question. Well, I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland. I was born in Washington, D.C., raised in a small, sleepy community called Accokeek, Maryland, which is the suburb of Prince George's County, and had an opportunity to graduate from high school. And at the time I graduated, got ready to graduate, I only applied to two colleges and universities, and that was Howard University and Morehouse College. And at the time, I was thinking about staying local, staying here in the DC area. Howard is located in the DC area, Morehouse College is in Atlanta. And I realized that at 17 years old, the best thing for me would be to get away from home and spread my wings and see the world. So I attended Morehouse College. I studied business administration, finance, and continued to explore opportunities in business. I had an opportunity to take a real estate finance course during my junior year at Morehouse, and it really piqued my interest around how to create sustainable communities through commercial real estate and community development. But on a parallel track, I had a immense interest in public policy and politics. And when I wasn't in class studying business, I was volunteering at the Atlanta City Council, working on legislative and policy matters for the then city council president. And I knew at that point I wanted to keep a healthy mix between community development, real estate, and public policy. And for most of the folks that I looked up to as a teenager and a young adult were either in one of those two industries or both. So when I graduated from college, funny enough, I had applied to all the top investment banking firms on Wall Street. But the problem is I graduated in 2009.
Oh, that's not a good timing. I'm sorry about that.
So the world was different. A few years, I always tell this funny story. The year before I graduated, I had friends who graduated, got jobs making six figures at 21 years old, working for top investment banking firms in New York. And within 6 months of them moving to New York and getting started, most of them either were laid off or fired and had to move back home with their parents, or most of them ended up moving to DC, ironically. But that was a lesson for me to think more broadly and not just put all my eggs in one basket. And so my senior year, I applied to graduate schools, I applied for fellowships, and ultimately I decided to attend the University of Michigan and got a fellowship, was accepted into a fellowship program to study public policy, real estate, and business. And that opportunity led me to move to Ann Arbor, Michigan. I had no family or friends there, but the University of Michigan is an unbelievable higher education institution that I knew that was the type of additional education and learning I needed to be successful in whatever it is I was going to do after completing that. One of the unique experiences that I had was being able to take classes at the public policy school, the law school, as well as the business school. And I took a community development course at Ross School of Business. And as a part of that, I served as a non-voting member for a board of a community development corporation in Southwest Detroit. And at the time, Detroit was still recovering from the exodus of the automobile industry. I can remember in Southwest Detroit, standing on a street where there were 10 houses, and all 10 of the houses were boarded up or blighted. And I grew up in a village environment where my family owned all the houses on the street that I grew up on. My parents' house, my grandparents, my uncles, my cousins. So we grew up in a village environment. And I realized that I've been extremely blessed and fortunate, and I wanted to create an opportunity for other people to have the same blessings and grow up in the same environment that I did. So fast forward, after I completed my fellowship program at the University of Michigan, I immediately moved back to Maryland. I became a chief of staff in the Maryland State Legislature, where for a year I worked on housing, community development, judiciary and business matters at the state level. And after doing that for a year and working in politics, I said, I think my public service career is done as it relates to working in state and local government, and now I'm ready to get back into the private sector. That opportunity led to me actually working in the healthcare industry, working for Bon Secure Baltimore Health System, which is one of the largest health systems in the city of Baltimore, and one of the most impoverished neighborhoods in the whole state of Maryland and West Baltimore. If you ever watched The Wire on HBO, that's the community where the Wire is shot. And I worked around creating fitness classes, cooking classes, working on community development projects. I was a community engagement manager. And I realized that, man, it's great to build nice buildings. It's great to have these new developments, but if the community is not healthy and if we're not helping to solve the underlying issues of poverty and quality of life, then none of it matters. And since then, that has been my operating mantra and a part of my purpose. And so before I had left that health system, I made it a point that whatever I do, I wanted to make a huge impact on the community. Fast forward, I left there and worked at a bank in Baltimore, a Harbor Bank of Maryland, briefly. Probably was there for less than 3 months. And one of my mentors called me and said, hey, I know you just started at the bank, but have you ever thought about going into commercial real estate brokerage? And I said, no, I don't have any real estate agents or real estate brokers in my family that are in the commercial real estate side of the business. And it's something I never considered. And so they have recommended that I meet with the chairman and CEO of NAI Michael. And I graciously took the meeting because of the immense history that the company had in helping to build and transform not only Prince George's County, but the DC region and its connections and impact in the community. And I said, this is a no-brainer. So long story short, I ended up meeting with them. I interviewed. They offered me an opportunity to start at the company. And they asked me when I wanted to start. That was on October the 15th of 2015. And I said, I want to start right now. And 8 years later, here I am.
Awesome. Great story. You know, I want to come back to some things about your college, but I have to think that your early work in community development on policy, it can only be helpful in your brokerage path because you have a bigger picture of a business environment, more so than, you know, I would think just people just trading, you know, representing property buyers and sellers, because you're looking at it. I'm guessing, Marcus, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I'm guessing you're looking at it like a whole ecosystem and how one thing relates to the other, connects to the other. Is that reasonably true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you hit it right on the head. Understanding the importance of stakeholders, understanding the importance of educating and informing and being a collaborative partner. Any community is really important, as well as I think most commercial real estate professionals know, being able to navigate legislative and public policy issues on a local, and state, and even national level is really important. Bringing all of those collective skill sets together can be very, very helpful in our industry. And I truly believe that everything that I did leading up to starting in the industry prepared me for this moment.
That's wonderful. Now I have to ask, you're a Morehouse man. Is it true you wore shirts and ties to class every day?
Yes, that is 100% true. And we had to keep a pen in our pocket at all times. And so Morehouse College holds a special place in my heart. Ironically enough, for those who are listening that may not know, Morehouse College is one of the few all-male colleges in the United States, have around 3,000 students. The college was actually smaller than my high school. And for most students that attend Morehouse, it's a brotherhood. If you didn't grow up with brothers or have that type of relationship with someone, you quickly develop that. And so when I first went to visit Morehouse as a 13-year-old kid, I saw everybody on campus, well, for the most part, wearing suits. Now, in the business department, you had to wear a suit when I first started every day. If you weren't a business student, you only had to wear a suit and tie on Tuesdays. But
Oh,
if
gotcha.
you were in business, you always had to have on a suit. And at the time, funny enough, to share this really quickly, the president when I first started of our college was Walter Massey. And Walter Massey was a physicist by trade and then moved into higher education. But at the time when he was the president of the college, he was actually on the board of directors for Bank of America and ultimately became the chairman of the board for Bank of America. So you can imagine with someone of that stature and at a high level in business, all the types of people who would come on campus any given day. And so it was we all were very aware that, hey, you never know who may be on campus. You never know who you may talk to. So dress to impress and be prepared. So
You never know who you're going to meet. Well, Morehouse is certainly one of the most iconic HBCUs in the country, and it looks like a special place to get an education. So I'm sure you feel grateful for it, and it seems like it's been a great background. Do you stay in touch with some of your brothers from college?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Some, like I said, some of my best friends are my classmates and even graduates before and after I graduated. And so it's for me, it's nothing like it, and it's helped me to grow into who I am today. And now the great thing about it is now that I'm a bit older and more seasoned in my profession, we're able to work together. We're able to do business together. We're able to support each other's efforts. And so whether it's in someone who's in the medical field or someone who's running for office or someone who's in real estate business, we all can support one another and help each other out. And that's one of the great things about the brotherhood and the network that you build you are when you're a student and ultimately a graduate of the college.
Yes, as it should be. And actually, Marcus, one of my questions, we plan to discuss this. Let's just shift, since we naturally, organically did, into prospecting and lead generation. So obviously the college network is one of them. How else? You're sort of established now. You're getting established. You've done a lot of the heavy lifting of establishing relationships in your work environment community. But how else are you networking and prospecting? And again, for leaders, especially others that are younger in the business than you, what's some advice you might lend them, but also just dig right into what are some of your better networks right now?
Love it. I love it. When I first started in the business, I didn't have any existing clients. I didn't have a book of business coming into the door. So I really had to be from the beginning. And that started with doing something that's very simple that I tell everyone who's just starting out in the commercial real estate brokerage business. That is to just go through your phone from A to Z and go through each contact and make sure that you let them know what you do, follow up with them, see if you can be of service to them, or if they can be a referral source for you. And that is what helped me to grow and build my business. So that was very organic, just leveraging the relationships that I had. Once I did that, and most people knew that I was in the commercial real estate brokerage industry, I quickly pivoted to being, and I use this analogy, not a fisher, but a hunter, and being very intentional of the types of owners that I wanted to reach out to, the types of properties that I wanted to sell, and ultimately making myself available to add value to wherever they are in that particular process. So I immediately started with the neighbors around me where I grew up and just kind of expanded from there. Obviously, I was familiar with the community that I grew up in because I lived there for many years, and they knew my family, certain property owners, though they didn't know me, knew my parents or knew my uncles and or cousins. And from there, it just kind of grew and expanded. And overnight, I started to just get more and more listings and working with more buyers and tenants and across different property types. And then I said, okay, well, this is working. Let me continue to be more intentional. How can I scale this? And so I started to send out more promotional material, postcards, letters, cold calling. I really was intentional about using my social media platform as a tool and not just for fun, but being very intentional about helping to educate and inform folks that may be looking to do business. And then the last thing that I'll say is I knew that when I joined NAI Michael, that NAI Michael was a part of NAI Global. So I never thought, when I first started, I never thought that I was a local broker. I looked at myself as a global broker, and I wanted to really build my business and grow my business around helping people, not just in the DC region, but growing it and helping people across the United States because of my relationships from my friends and brothers at Morehouse College that were all over the country and the world. And more generally thinking bigger than just my hometown. And so from that, I joined trade associations.
I was going to say that's really appropriate, the global piece, but go on. You joined some trade associations.
I joined trade associations. I took the little bit of money that I had in the first year to scraping together deals and making fees, and took that money and reinvested in myself. One of the most impactful things that I did was join trade associations in industries that I didn't have relationships with or little experience. As an example, one of those organizations was NABHOOD, which is the National Association of Black Hotel Owners, Operators, and Developers. And I took some little money that I have. I flew down to Miami, Florida for this annual conference, and it met with all of the top African-American hotel owners, operators, and developers, and was very much inspired by the members of that organization. And ultimately, it helped me to grow my relationships in not only the hospitality industry, but also in the development and institutional world as well. So that started me really focusing on joining associations, getting outside of my target market and thinking of myself as a national and global broker. So to date, now I'm a member of national organizations such as the Real Estate Executive Council, which is the top membership organization for African Americans in the commercial real estate industry, as well as Urban Land Institute, NAIOP, Maryland Building Industry Association. Any group that is related to commercial real estate that I'm working in, I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted people to know my name and know that I'm willing to work with them and build relationships. And so that extra time and that extra effort has paid dividends. And the advice that I would give in closing is just for those who are just starting in the business, it's really important to work twice as hard. I said when I started, I would be willing to work twice as hard to get half as far in this business. And so if that meant I have to work 16-hour days, that's what I would do. If it meant I had to work weekends, that's what I would do. And I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but the importance of having a mentor that instilled that work ethic and qualities in me was really important to understand what it takes to be successful in this industry.
Absolutely. Well, you did the nuts and bolts early. You did what has to be done, and there's no shortcuts, folks. If you want a career in commercial real estate, there's no shortcut. Without getting into the details of on the money side, but how it's a straight commission industry. I don't know what NAI Michael offered you to help you get started, and you did have some business career prior, but how did you financially get by the first year or two?
For sure. I had a little bit of savings from my previous professions, but I did go on the draw for a little bit, and that was very helpful, right? Like I had started in 23rd, what was this? No, so 2015. So the market is churning along. We're out of the financial crisis, if you will. But like I had mentioned when I first started, I didn't have a book of business. So it took me, 6 months just to close my first deal. And that was probably 1,000 square foot office lease where I made maybe $2,000. So the support of the company was very helpful for me to get my footing and just to grow in the business. And just generally speaking, like I've always been entrepreneurial in terms of having multiple streams of income, diversifying my own, ventures and making sure that in the event that one well goes dry, I have another well to pull from. So that was helpful. But again, very appreciative of the fact that I was able to have that support. And it gave me the comfort and confidence to go into the office and not have to worry about where the next meal was going to come from or how to put gas in my car. So that was very helpful. And just growing in the business is and doing more deals and more business. It's funny, like I pretty much live the same lifestyle that I lived when I first started, just because I know that things can change fairly quickly in the market or in the economy. As I mentioned, I graduated in 2009, so I've seen the good and the bad. And I've heard stories of senior brokers in our office that, have had amazing years, and then the next year the phone is just not ringing at all. So being able to have reserves and have savings is really important in this business, particularly if you want to own, acquire, and develop your own commercial real estate in the future. This is a very capital intensive business. And I think the great thing about our business and our role as commercial real estate brokers is that we can learn from the successes and the failures of our clients for free. No call, and no.
Well, I don't know if it's free. You're a lot of blood,
It's
sweat,
not
and
free in
tears,
terms of
right?
time.
Yeah, we have to count that as something. Well, I guess the last question I have for you, Marcus, is again, not getting into the weeds on the business cycle, but what's your short-term outlook for your business, and what do you think it's going to look like 5 years from now?
That's a great question. Right now, my business is continuing to grow across not only the DC region, but across the country. I've really have focused the past 2 years of my business around growing my industrial practice, finding more property owners, investors, and developers that are looking at building, owning, and leasing industrial warehouses and industrial logistics parks. And the way that I've been able to build that is just, like I said in other instances, working with owners that have land that's zoned industrial, or helping owners to think about opportunities for their property to be rezoned or positioned in a way where those assets can be developed. And so I see myself continuing to grow in the industrial sector. Also, I think in the multifamily and residential land sales part of our business. Right now, I have about 1,000 acres that I'm selling. My goal is right now in the next 12 months to get another 1,000 acres and sell that for multifamily or residential development. And finally, I would just say that continuing to not forget where I started. Helping nonprofits, helping small businesses, helping entrepreneurs that don't have a real estate department or division, don't have the benefit of or an existing relationship with a commercial real estate broker. Help them to think about where they are and where they need to be. So helping them come up with a strategic plan for the real estate as they grow and scale their business. I think that is something that I really look forward to continuing to do. Ultimately, it just comes down to this, Gary. It's very simple. If I can help to make other people successful, I'll be successful. And that's it. It's not about me.
That's the winning spirit.
It's not about me. It's about helping other people. And it's not about the money, it's about the impact that we make through our business. And so when it's all said and done, people that I'll never meet will benefit from the work and the labor that I've done along with helping other people.
Well, you certainly have the right attitude, Marcus. I congratulate you. And it really is about being a resource and being of service, regardless of the nature of your work. But it seems like you're doing it on many fronts. Marcus Daniels, it's been wonderful speaking with you on this House Biz podcast. Thank you so much for your time. Look forward to seeing you at one of our upcoming conventions.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to How's Biz, presented by NAI Global. Review, share, subscribe, and keep an eye out for the next episode.